And we're back again. It's the Horror Guys with episode 168 of our amazing podcast. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're here to talk about some horror movies this week and a short.
Amazing podcast, you say?
It is. That's what everybody says.
Okay. Well, I think so.
Uh-huh.
These movies may not be so amazing.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. They're not terrible,
It was a mix this week.
Well, there's none that I would say is an absolute stinker, although one kind of falls off the bottom of my map.
I think some have fallen below the threshold of 5 out of 10.
All right. So this week we're going to watch a group of older films mostly. I don't think we've got anything too awful recent here.
No, 2013.
Yeah, the newest one is Battledogs, a sort of maybe kind of werewolf film from 2013. Then we're going to howl along with Cujo from 1983, meet up with a cool vampire in Subspecies from 1991, and end up with a geriatric mummy in Bubba Ho-Tep. Bubba Ho-Tep from 2002.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, those are the ones we're going to have a short for you, as always. But also on the weekly newsletter list, we've got a couple of interesting ones. The last couple of weeks, we've done Puppet Master 1 and Puppet Master 2, so
we made it up to the third one.
Puppet Master 3, Toulon's Revenge from 1991 is in the newsletter this week.
And pleasingly, the Puppet Master doesn't fall into the sequels get worse kind of trap.
I think with 1, 2, and 3, the sequels get increasingly better.
Yeah, I'm impressed with those.
I don't remember what specifically happens in 4, but I think 3 may be the peak.
I think they start going downhill later, but yeah so far.
And, of course, we also watched The Spine of Night, an animated thing on Shudder from 2022.
One trippy cartoon.
Very much, yes. It wants to be heavy metal, but I don't think it quite made it.
And they just put a ton of man-hours into making that, too.
I think it was, I think I read it was 5 or 7 people that worked on it is all.
Yeah.
And it took them 7 years. Maybe it was 5 people, 7 years. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Just an amazing amount of time and effort into it.
But it was an interesting story. If you like fantasy, mythology with a little bit of horror thrown in there, check that out. Go to horrorbulletin.com to sign up for the newsletter. It's free. It's you get 2 emails a week. One email has all our regular reviews from the podcast, the stuff we're going to read to you right now, and the bonus newsletter that has 2 or sometimes 3 additional reviews that don't appear anywhere else.
And you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, too.
At Horror Movie Guys on Twitter and Horror Guys Podcast on Facebook.
We're everywhere.
And, of course, we're in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo,
we're
Scribd.
Wherever fine books are sold.
Wherever fine books are sold. Search for Horror Guys Guides. We've got the Horror Guys Guide to Shock Theater, Horror Guys Guide to Son of Shock Theater, Horror Guys Guide to all the Hammer of Horror films, the Silent Age of film,
and some fiction.
And
Tales
all the films of Vincent Price is in a book. We got a book on just the Vincent Price films.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, yes, we have a short series of horror fiction.
2 books.
Tales to Make You Shiver, Volume 1 and 2. And for like 5 years now, we keep saying we're going to do a 3, and someday we may start on that. But anyway, this week we've got Battledogs from 2013.
And that was directed by Alexander Yellen, written by Shane Van Dyke, stars Craig Schaefer from the Nightbreed guy. Yeah. Dennis Haysbert.
The insurance guy.
Yes. And Kate Vernon, who I can't think right off the top of my head what she's known for.
One of the Last Cylons.
Okay. Oh, yeah. The runtime was 1 hour and 28 minutes, and there's a trailer on YouTube. What'd you think of this one?
Well, spoiler-free. What did you think, spoiler-free?
Well, it's a zombie apocalypse only with werewolves. So it's like a werewolf apocalypse, kind of. It's like a plague of werewolves. This makes an interesting variation, but when the military decides they want to control the outbreak to weaponize the werewolves, well, what could go wrong? We find out. Quite a bit, it turns out. Lots of action in this one. It's pretty entertaining overall. It's more of it really crosses over into military-style action a lot.
I think this was one of those Sci-Fi Channel movie of the week kind of things.
Yeah.
And the budget is appropriate for that.
The CGI looks it. How a typical sci-fi feature, I'm sure you've seen enough where you know what the CGI can look like. Because, it gets the job done, but it's not hugely,
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that while we were watching it. But yeah, if you just take a fairly generic zombie apocalypse movie and say,
Swap
hey,
it
let's
out
get
for werewolves
people are
instead.
tired of zombies. Let's do werewolves instead.
And it's a fast spreading.
Yeah, it is.
It's the fast zombie apocalypse. It's fast werewolf apocalypse.
Okay, well, we start out getting an aerial shot of New York City as the credits roll. A woman walks through the airport, and she doesn't look terribly healthy. She goes into the restroom, and we see that she's got a bite on her arm. She goes into convulsions and changes into a CGI werewolf that runs through the airport, killing people as it goes. And I say CGI there because it's pretty obvious.
Oh, boy, it's so, the CGI is so obvious. It gets the job done, but it's obvious.
It's all right.
Yeah.
The SWAT team arrives, and we soon see that there's more than one of these monsters. The disease, or whatever it is, seems to spread very quickly, as the wounded almost immediately turn into werewolves. It's like a zombie apocalypse, only with wolves. Very quickly, the President of the United States is notified, and this is a big deal, so General Manning is put in charge of the operation. Major Huffman is ordered to leave the lab and get there immediately. Captain Falcon is ordered to use gas only until they know what they're up against. So already we're getting all these military characters.
Mm-hmm.
All the wounded/infected are gathered up and put into quarantine. Donna Voorhees turns out to be the name of the original werewolf woman, and she checks into the quarantine place along with everyone else. Dr. Ellen Gordon microchips Donna.
They all get microchipped, just
like all
puppies.
pets, all good pets, yes.
Well, and the difference, too, is it's not a full moon contingent change.
No, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about the full moon.
Mm-hmm.
Everything so far has happened in the afternoon sometime.
Yeah.
Major Hoffman talks to Donna. She's a wildlife photographer and says that he says they need to find patient 0, but she doesn't have anything to say about that.
Nope, no idea. And she is.
Well, as far as we know, she is at this point.
Well, yeah.
The general warns Hoffman not to screw this up like he did his last job. The soldiers are using excessive force, but Hoffman warns that these are people in there somewhere. General Manning wants to start recruiting the infected as werewolf soldiers. That escalated quickly.
It did.
Hoffman goes to the airport to learn that they've installed the brand new hologram security recording footage, and now we start edging into the way ridiculous sci-fi territory.
Yeah, the sci-fi, yeah. And this is a really cool system, but it's, like 50 years ahead of our technology.
It's like Star Trek holodeck level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not real. Hoffman spots Donna in the footage, and he wants to see what's on her camera. Meanwhile, Captain Falcon gets one of the infected to track down Hoffman as a test of their hunting ability. Has it ever made clear why everybody hates Hoffman so much? He screwed up his last job, but we don't know details.
We don't know the specifics, no.
Hoffman calls Manning and thinks that Donna may be patient 0. A werewolf does come after Hoffman, who tries to reason with it. He soon finds out that they can be killed with regular bullets.
Mm-hmm. They're just fast and tough, but doesn't require silver.
Manning calls his buddy at the Department of Defense and talks about weaponizing the werewolves. Hoffman can't be trusted, so Manning wants him dead. Yeah, you can't you in the military, you just transfer the people that you don't trust if they're working under you?
In movies, it's that easy.
If I'm a general and I got guys I don't like working under me, they're going to go somewhere else. You don't have to have them assassinated.
Well, yeah.
Well, they capture Donna, but she doesn't hold a cure for the disease. She does, however, have a bit of the original wolf's tooth stuck in her arm, which may be of use. When Dr. Gordon tries to cut the tooth out, Donna wolfs up, and so do all the others. Hoffman does the whole good dog thing, and Wolf Donna reverts to human.
So it's kind of a hulking sort of transformation. If they get worked up or upset or angry or anything like that. But, if like this, he calmed her down and, good,
speaking of a
good
Hulk.
Good Donna. Nice. Calm down.
In the Avengers movie, what did they say? It's sundown time or something? What did they call it to calm him down?
Sundown time? Oh,
I don't know. There was something like that. But yeah, that's exactly what they do here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The rest of the wolves, on the other hand, head straight for downtown New York City, and pandemonium ensues. Major Hoffman calls the president, but the president believes Manning's lies instead. Hoffman, Donna, and Dr. Gordon have to escape the base, but the president has ordered their arrest. The werewolves attack the soldiers in Central Park en masse. Helicopters start shooting werewolves on the busy streets of New York, but then the wolves fight back. So yeah, if you hadn't figured this out yet, there's a lot of CGI going on here.
Oh, yeah. But and I was wondering, at this point, like, okay, there's no way they could contain it anymore.
No.
This would just be, all it takes is one person, one bite.
There's hundreds of werewolves in downtown New York City that is fully populated on a weekday. And
all it takes is, and it spreads from person to person that easily and that fast. Yeah, it'd be out of control at that point.
Well, supposedly the werewolves are in a hurry to get somewhere.
But it's a movie,
yeah.
So, that doesn't happen.
It's
not the end of the world. Yeah.
Falcon shoots Hoffman and Gordon and captures Donna. Meanwhile, the president talks about eradicating New York to contain the outbreak. Gordon cuts out Donna's tooth and starts working on an antidote. Hoffman, who is left for dead, gets up with barely a scratch. Gordon almost immediately whips up a cure for Donna, which Manning immediately confiscates. There's a shootout, Captain Falcon blows up, and then a werewolf attacks Manning. The jet fighters approach the city to blow up everything, as Hoffman and Manning fight each other in werewolf form. Somewhere down the line, they both become werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
Donna shoots the Manning wolf and blows it apart before dying herself. Hoffman then calls the president again, and this time, for no particular reason, the president believes him. It's too late, though. They've already dropped the bomb, which wipes out New York City. But that's okay, because they evacuated the whole city in just a few hours since the action began. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a science fiction thought right there. Yeah.
I think we all know how that works.
Well, and I saw once, I think it was, and I don't know what the exact topic was, but they ran a scenario. Smart people, did the math. And,
probably nuclear war or something. How quickly could you evacuate?
Evacuate. Yeah, you need to evacuate New York City. And it would have, all the ferries, all the cars, everything, just continuously, and it'd be like 6 weeks or something. It's just a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah. But they do it all in a couple hours. So finally, Gordon and Hoffman jump off a bridge and survive by avoiding the nuclear blast underwater. Happy ending, right?
Yes.
Because all you need to do in a nuclear explosion is jump in the river.
And all better. Yep.
That river wouldn't boil away or anything like that.
Would you like me to read your commentary?
Go for it.
Well, the super high-speed infection process is new and interesting. Lends itself to a fairly original storyline. Which it did. Yeah, I enjoyed it. General Manning's hatred of Hoffman is completely ridiculous. If Hoffman were incompetent, why would he still be an officer? He's just irrationally evil because military evil. And sometimes, anyway.
In the movies, that's the way it usually works.
Sometimes, he's just a character type in a movie, yeah. Donna was clearly infected and afflicted with the disease. So what was the big deal about her being patient zero? And she may have been the first, but she didn't have any special antibodies or resistance.
She didn't create the disease.
Yeah. I mean, not like that, where it mutated. And that's not the way cures and immunizations work.
If you went back in time and found that first person who had COVID, would that really make any difference? No, they're not special. They're just they're the first weak one who got infected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some bad science in this.
A lot of bad science in this.
But entertaining overall, yeah. The CGI werewolves, well, they're CGI. And this was for the Sci-Fi Channel, so, that's to be expected CGI-wise. It's a good cast of experienced people, neat new concept, and the special effects are good enough to get the point across.
They weren't awful.
No,
they were cheap.
It tells the story. Yeah. There is a lot of running around and action, and maybe a little bit too much action, which makes the film feel a little bit longer than it is. So much happens that you just kind of want it to be over sometimes. Yeah.
A little too much running around.
A little bit here and there, yeah. But overall, entertaining and a thumbs up.
If you're ever making an action movie, just have a lot of running around. You can fill out 45 minutes that way.
It's a filler sometimes, yeah.
All right, so we saw the Battledogs. Now we see the battle with a dog.
Just one dog.
Cujo.
One big dog from 1983, based on a Stephen King novel. Directed by Louis Teague, written by Stephen King, Don Carlos Dunaway, and Barbara Turner. Stars Dee Wallace, yay, Dan Hugh Kelly, and Danny Pintoro. Runtime is 1 hour and 33 minutes. Trailer on YouTube.
Spoiler free for anybody who doesn't know what happens in this movie. What happens?
Well, doggies are scary, right? Or not scary? Well, they can be a little, and sometimes they can really be scary. And this is an extreme case, and they do it pretty effectively. It's a good story, realistic with events that could really happen. Dee Wallace sells it, and so does the rest of the cast.
So sticking with the spoiler free, you're telling me there's a bad dog?
There's a bad dog in this.
There's a bad dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you could see that from the trailer. That's not that big of a spoiler. There's a bad dog.
Yeah, if you've never heard of Cujo, well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's what really happens in the film. We see a happy little bunny in a field on a beautiful spring day. Then a giant dog comes out of nowhere and chases it. Happy dog, happy bunny, chase, chase, chase.
Fun, fun, fun.
The rabbit escapes into a cave full of bats, and one of those evil, nasty, dirty bats bites the dog and begins his conversion to the dark side.
Yep, rabies.
Rabies, yes. Does anybody say the word rabies? I don't think they do. Not in the movie, anyway.
Yes.
They do?
Yes. The mechanic guy.
Okay.
Yeah, the dad farmer guy. Yeah, he says, "Oh, Cujo, you're rabid." I believe he exclaims that.
And the Cujo, of course, says, yes, I am. I mean,
yeah, I believe the R word is used at least once.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, elsewhere, little Tad tries to get into bed without the monsters getting him. He's afraid of the dark. He's afraid of the closet door that won't stay shut. He's afraid of what's under the bed. His father, Vic, explains that there's no such thing as monsters. They only exist in stories. His mother, Donna, just looks tired of the whole thing. Steve Kemp comes over, and he's a furniture repairman and Vic's tennis partner. We soon learn that Steve and Donna are screwing around when Vic's not home, and Vic, on the other hand, just wants to have another baby. Well, the mailman gives Vic a tip on where to find a good mechanic out in the country. The whole family goes out to the Camber house, where Joe Camber agrees to fix Vic's car. Donna and Tad see Cujo, a huge St. Bernard, and she's a little afraid of this big dog, but the little boy, he's like, "Oh, doggy."
Doggy.
And the dog is very nice and very gentle, and it's a good dog.
Mm-hmm.
Donna's a little afraid of dogs, but Tad isn't. Tad and Cujo make friends, and Donna notices the scab on Cujo's nose.
Uh-oh.
Well, outdoor dogs get little wounds sometimes.
Yeah.
Vic works at a PR firm that is having a really bad week with their breakfast cereal account. What was the deal?
It was a kid's cereal, and they used red dye in it that was non-digestible.
Everybody's pooping out red?
And pooping, and everybody, all these parents and kids panicking because they're hemorrhaging and it's causing intestinal bleeding. And no, it's just food coloring. But,
oops.
No harm was done, but the bad press and the scares.
It's a PR disaster.
It is, yeah.
Well, meanwhile, Donna drives her broken-down old Pinto to see Steve and break up with him. Vic drives by in his fancy convertible and spots them outside, but only briefly, so he's not completely sure what he saw. I like how she drives this old Pinto that barely runs, and he's got a super high-end convertible sports car.
Yeah, one of these things is not like the other.
Meanwhile, we see the infection on Cujo's nose has gotten worse, and he's not looking real healthy at all. Charity Camber reveals that she just won $5,000 in the lottery. She got Joe an engine hoist, and she wants to go to Connecticut to see her sister for a week and take her son with her. Joe has his friend Gary over to keep him company.
And I don't remember how it was in the book, but I got a little vibe that Father Joe was maybe a little abusive, and she was wanting out. I kind of got the impression she was planning on not ever coming back. I don't know if that was brought up in the book or not, but that's the vibe I got as she's packing and she kind of taking some memento-y looking kind of things. And
well, they're very rednecky, stereotypy kind of characters. So, yeah, it would not be surprising to find out he was beating up on her, but I don't think we really get much hint of that in the movie.
Not much, but, just around the edges. Makes you wonder. Yeah.
Well, Steve comes over, not willing to take no for an answer. Vic comes in during their argument, and he knows what's going on now. Vic has to go out of town for 10 days to deal with his lost account, and Vic can't fix Donna's car, so he tells her to take it over to Joe's for repair. Out in the country, Gary dumps trash in his pile. He sees Cujo, who growls at him. He recognizes the foaming at the mouth and runs away, but Cujo is faster.
Maybe he's the one that says, Cujo, you're
Yeah,
rabid.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Gary grabs his gun, but Cujo breaks in the front door and kills him. Later, Joe Camber calls for Cujo, and he hasn't been around the house lately. Joe stops over at Gary's house and finds his body. He also finds Cujo, and he knows what the problem is, but he also can't get away.
Cujo bad now.
Donna and Tad drive out to the Camber farm to get the car fixed, but find that, hey, no one's home. Cujo attacks before they can even get out of the car. They roll up the windows, so they're okay for now. Tad, of course, starts crying about the monster, and the crying and the screaming never stop.
He is a crier and screamer in this, for sure. Yeah.
The screams only infuriate the dog more because I guess rabies makes sensitive hearing.
Mm-hmm. Hypersensitive. Yeah.
The car, on the other hand, now refuses to start because it's a crappy old Pinto. They eventually honk the horn and drive the dog away. With no other options, Donna and Tad wait in their little car until help arrives. The car is still dead and now isn't going anywhere. Vic tries to call home that night, but when no one answers, he thinks Donna is out with Steve. The waiting game begins. The next day, they're still in the car, and it's really hot. They are near the mailbox, so they're waiting for the mailman to come. Over at the post office, we see that Mrs. Camber put a hold on their mail while she's going out of town, so that mail isn't coming. Eventually, Donna has to get out of the car, and she gets attacked, but she fights him off with a metal thermos, and there's lots more screaming. Vic decides to leave the meeting early since he can't get through to Donna. His partner's angry, but Vic goes anyway. On the third day, Tad starts having convulsions from dehydration, which raises Donna's motivation levels just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Steve goes over to the family home looking for Donna, and Vic goes home to find out that Steve has cut open all the pillows in the house and trashed the place.
Yeah, he didn't want to take no for an answer.
He's kind of a jerk.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a psycho-y jerk. Yeah.
The police think that maybe Donna did this before leaving him, but Vic is convinced that Steve did it. The police start looking for Donna's car, which might be up at the Camber place. Sheriff arrives at the farm, and he gets out to investigate. He figures out what's been going on, but just a little too late to save himself. That cop was pretty incompetent.
He wasn't very
aware. He
aware.
didn't radio to say where he was.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to get his gun out.
Mm-hmm.
He just,
he didn't proceed with caution at all. Yeah.
When the sheriff doesn't report in, Vic decides to go to the farm himself. Donna resolves that...
Complacent, I think, is the way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
not
didn't
incompetent, just he didn't think it was any big deal, and used to living a life where nothing goes on and there's very little crime, and yeah, he was complacent.
Never live in a small town with no crime. It always goes badly. Well, Donna figures out that she has to do something and makes a run for the baseball bat she sees laying in the yard. She whacks Cujo good a few times and finally stabs the dog to death. With the danger past, she tries to get inside the car to rescue Tad, but can't get in. She's broken the door handles off. She finally has to break a window to get into him, and she takes Tad into the Camber house and gets him water.
Well, Cujo bit the door handles off.
That's a strong dog.
Yeah.
Well, Tad is nearly dead, but she does revive him.
Unlike in the book.
In the book, the little
kid dies in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they happied up the ending a bit.
Which was totally unnecessary. We really don't see the kid after this.
It's Hollywood. People like happy endings for Hollywood. They probably test audiences said, "Oh, we don't like that," and so they went with a okay, kid lives.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, she wakes up Tad. Of course, because it's a horror movie, Cujo then breaks through the window, and Donna shoots him with the sheriff's gun. There's always that one last surge.
Mm-hmm.
Vic arrives minutes after the action ends. Happy ending. All right. Well, boy, can that kid scream.
Oh, boy. Yeah. This was made back when Stephen King movies still tried to be good. Yeah.
They don't put a lot of effort in anymore.
They've been hit and miss over the years. Yeah. It's got a smallish cast, a simple story, and not too many distracting special effects. Just a scary old dog who behaves like a real rabid dog would. And there's absolutely nothing supernatural or magical or even evil. I mean, the dog is just going berserk.
It's a sick dog.
From being sick, yeah. He's big and strong. And there was talk of doing a sequel, but all it would have taken to resolve the problem is a modern cell phone. Of course, that wasn't the option in 1983. And so the isolation of being in a car, even right next to the house, is very real.
Yeah, and there is a phone right inside that house. They just couldn't get to it.
The kid here is a little annoying with all the screaming, but he's supposed to be able to do that to heighten the tension. In the book, Tad does die, but he survives here, so the film doesn't have such a downer ending.
Would have been a lot
We
quieter
spoiled
if he'd
it.
have died like an hour earlier.
Well, it would have been.
Just run over him in the car, and then we'll just
Oof.
have her argue with the
Harsh.
dog. Children in horror movies are rarely good. Oh, well. Speaking of
Good things.
good things, I was going to say rarely good, but our shorts that we pick are
Our
almost
shorts-
always good.
Our shorts, yeah, there's so many
We
good.
don't talk about the bad ones.
It's just amazing how many people do really good shorts, and they're just sitting out there on YouTube for everybody to see for free.
And of course, if you're listening and you have made a short film, we'd love to hear about it.
Oh, tell us about it. We'll review it.
Yeah, email us horrorguys at email at I say that a lot, don't I?
Yeah.
Email at horrorguys.com and send us a link to your short.
Well, this one is called Pursuit of a Jigsaw. It was just put on this year. Directed by Sam Mazzari Powell. Written by Sam Mazzari Powell. Mazzari? Yes,
I would
Mazzari
say
Powell.
Mizrahi.
Mizrahi.
I don't know. Sam Mizrahi Powell.
And we always have to apologize about name pronunciations. Stars Jamie Roy, Caitlin Thornburg, and Garrett M. Brown. And runtime is 12 and a half minutes.
Thornburg, you say?
Burn.
Thorburn, yes.
Thorburn. See, I can't combine
Names
my
are hard.
mispronunciation
They really
with not
are.
being able to read. Yes, Caitlin Thorburn.
Yes. 12 hours. That's
12
not,
hours.
Not much of a
That's
short.
not a short anymore.
12 minutes, 33 seconds, and we've got a link where you can watch it right now on YouTube. What happens?
Benjamin awaits his marriage, and he seems to be surprisingly unhappy about it. He's afraid of losing his individuality and becoming a jigsaw person. And this sounds ridiculous until we see his coworker, who has already undergone this transformation. And his fiancée Mary doesn't seem completely overjoyed at the prospect either.
Yeah, that's far enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to talk anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's strange. The masks were awesome in it. Yeah,
Maybe,
it's a winner.
just maybe, this couple isn't ready for marriage.
Oh,
There's a lot of commentary here about being part of a team, part of a marriage, part of the world, and how terrifying and terrible all of that can be. The makeup and masks are effective and make it clear what's going on. Yeah. I'm sure that there are people who feel this way about getting married, and, I bet those don't work out very long.
Or, they just stay together out of habit or hatred or whatever. There's relationships like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, have more kids and feed them to the rabid dogs.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there's no rabid dogs in Bubba Ho-Tep from 2002. Just one old mummy.
Directed by Don Coscarelli.
The Phantasm guy.
Oh, yeah. And it was written by Don also and Joe R. Lansdale. Stars Bruce Campbell, Ossie Davis, and Bob Ivy, and other people. Runtime is 1 hour and 32 minutes, and there's a trailer on YouTube. And this is my winner of the week.
Really?
My favorite.
Okay.
My favorite of the week. Yeah.
I'm going to save my winner of the week for the next film, I think.
Okay. Well, this is a crazy premise and a whole lot of fun. It certainly is still a horror movie, but there's really some grim aspects to it and some serious laughs. The makeup, effects, acting, and script are all great, and check this one out for sure.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this one, it's definitely worthwhile. Mm-hmm. Two old guys fighting a mummy in the nursing home.
Yeah, but who are these old guys? Well, we're going to tell you about it.
Yep. Okay, spoiler-wise, we begin with an old-time newsreel of a group of archaeologists discovering the tomb of King Amenhotep in Egypt. The mummified remains then went on to tour museums around the world, as those things always do. Mm-hmm. In present-day Mud Creek, Texas, there's a nursing home named Shady Creek. An old man who kind of looks a little bit like Elvis wakes up in a nasty bedroom with an even nastier roommate. No, we soon find out he really is Elvis, and he's not happy to be there. Then the roommate dies. That evening, an old woman steals the eyeglasses off another old woman in an iron lung.
Yeah, she's
Can't do much
classy.
about that when you're in one of those.
No.
Then she steals a box of chocolates from a tray. She goes back to her room and pigs out. She ends up fighting with a giant cockroach. No, that's a giant big scarab. Suddenly, a mummy appears. 2 deaths in 2 days. The mortuary guys are getting tired. And every time somebody dies, these same two mortuary guys show up. Yeah.
And they're kind of funny, too.
Elvis then meets the dead roommate's daughter, Callie, and he guilts her over not visiting his former roommate. The nurse says to Callie that he's obviously not really Elvis. She calls him Sebastian Half, an old Elvis impersonator who fell off the stage and broke his hip 20 years ago. He's never been quite right since. At least that's the nurse's opinion.
Mm-hmm. Except,
in truth, Elvis and, well, at least this is his point of view. It still may not be true. It's never really verified.
It could be in the president's story is even crazier.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. So I don't know. Do you believe this story?
I think for the purposes of the movie, I do.
You think it's real? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think so too. He's not just crazy.
The president, I'm not so sure about. Him, yeah.
In truth, Elvis and Sebastian switched places for a break with the agreement that Elvis could step back in at any time he wanted to. Except Elvis burned up his contract in a freak barbecue accident. Sebastian then died with the world thinking he was Elvis, and then Elvis continued life as an Elvis impersonator. He didn't really want to go back anyway.
Yeah, tired of all the fame.
Until he fell off the stage and broke his hip. We then get a flashback that confirms his story, but now no one believes that he is who he says he is.
Yeah, because legally he is Sebastian Hoff.
Yeah, they traded identities.
Yeah.
The only guy who does believe him is JFK, the former president, who is now an old black man.
What?
They dyed me this color all over. He didn't actually die in that assassination attempt.
No, and part of his brain is in a jar in Washington.
And he's got a big scar on the back of his head.
He does.
Who knows? Late one night, Elvis gets up to pee and turns on the space heater in his bedroom. He finds one of the scarabs, and he thinks it's a cockroach, too. He fights it off with his walker and karate moves, and he finally traps it with a bedpan. He goes to see Jack, JFK, to tell him what happened. Jack says he saw it scuttling down the hall, and he doesn't mean the bug.
And I don't know if it's mentioned here later, but Jack, JFK's room, he's got it decked out like it's a miniature of the Oval Office.
Yeah, it's very classy and clean and
carpeted, and just like you'd picture, the Oval Office.
Elvis is in like this old, decrepit, worn out, nasty room, and the president, he's got the nice place. And he dresses in the nice suits.
Oh, wears a suit all the time, yeah.
Has people to drive him around. He's gotten money one way or the other.
Yeah.
The next morning, Elvis finds that the excitement for the previous night has excited him. The next night, Jack comes to him, warning about it being back again. Jack thinks it's an assassin after him, so they go and check it out. Then they find Egyptian hieroglyphs scratched into the restroom stall like graffiti. Even the mummy's got to go poop sometimes. What you going to do while you're in there?
Make some
right
graffiti.
On the wall. Yeah. Jack claims that the creature had him last night and was just about to suck his soul out through his ass when Elvis interrupted it. You're going to suck out a soul. That's not usually the way to do it.
Any orifice will do.
I guess. They read in a book about soul suckers who can draw it out of any orifice. And since the mummy is dressed sort of like a cowboy for some reason, Elvis calls him Bubba Ho-Tep. Because all them cowboys are just bubbas. What they've got here is an Egyptian soul sucker that comes for little meals each night. Old people don't offer much energy, but they don't put much of a fight either, so it's kind of like an easy buffet for the creature. Elvis doesn't really believe any of this until he sees the creature walking down the hallway. We get a quick vision/flashback that shows us how the mummy got there. The next morning, Elvis goes down to the creek to find the bust from his vision, which is really hard to do for an old guy with a walker.
He manages, though.
Jack goes downtown and does some research on the mummy. It turns out it was stolen for ransom, but then the bus the crooks drove went off a bridge and washed away into the creek somewhere near the nursing home. They never found the mummy. Elvis remembers his movies and decides this time he wants to be the hero in real life. At this point, you said you've never seen an Elvis movie.
Not all the way through.
There's like 50 of them.
I know. I've seen bits and clips, of course. But no, I've never seen one all the way through.
My mom used to watch them every time they were on. I bet I've seen 30 or 40 of them.
I knew they were out there,
They're
on
all
syndication.
right. I bet they're all terribly dated now. I haven't seen one in years.
Someday I'll have to see one.
I don't think there's any Elvis horror films.
Not that
I can't think of
that I know of.
We're going to have to look that up.
Uh-huh.
Well, Jack and Elvis make a plan, gather their weapons, and set a trap. Finally, they spot the mummy outside, and the mummy attacks, but they fight it off. Jack goes looking for it, but it gets him first. Elvis hops into Jack's wheelchair and sprays the monster with alcohol and gasoline, then sets it on fire. Jack dies, but tells Elvis that he's got to take care of business. The mummy gets back up, as they always do.
Mm-hmm.
The two fight and race toward the cliff on the wheelchair. They go over the side, and Elvis loses his gasoline can, but he's still got the alcohol. Elvis sets the thing on fire again, and this time the mummy loses the souls he had eaten, and finally dies. Elvis is also dying, but at least he saved all the others at Shady Pines.
Saved the world from the mummy.
Well, Bruce Campbell's old age makeup is pretty good here. He's wrinkly, but not so over the top as to look awful.
And there is a passing resemblance to Elvis, too.
Yeah,
even without the
I think
makeup.
he has done
Bruce
some
Campbell.
Elvis impersonating,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when people wear the old age makeup, especially in these older kind of movies, they look a little overblown and kind of horrible.
No, it's
This one,
it's
it's a
good
little
and
more subtle.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's not real. You can tell it's not real, but it's not bad. Really, the whole concept for the film is just insane and bizarre. Old man Elvis and old man JFK, old black man JFK, battle a mummy in a nursing home. Still, the acting sells it, and it's a lot of fun. It's an ongoing joke that film mummies are slow and ought to be easy to avoid. They're just wrapped up zombies, after all. Who couldn't outrun a mummy? Well, old people with walkers, of course. Still, this pair manages to put up a good fight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Winner of the week in my book.
All right. Well, I had seen Subspecies back in 1991 when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it being good.
I think I did, too. Yeah.
And then I saw the sequels to it, which were not so good.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was directed by Ted Nicolau, written by Charles Band, Jackson Barr, David Pabian. Stars Angus Scrimm. Well, I say stars. He's
in it.
He's got a small role, but he's top billing because he's a well-known name. Anders Hove and Irina Moliva. Runtime is 1 hour and 23 minutes, and a trailer on YouTube.
And this is written by Charles Band, the same guy who did the Puppet Master movies.
Aha.
And I wonder what his deal is all of a sudden that there's so many of his movies coming out that we are seeing. It's not intentional on our part. It's just the way it comes out.
Marketing thing on their part.
Yeah, they're putting all his movies on Shudder or somewhere probably. Spoiler free. What's it about?
It's a pretty good vampire tale. The digital special effects haven't held up over time, but the makeup and practical effects are solid. And it's a great location in Romania. Lots of cool castles and things. And it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one does get my pick of the week just because it's kind of different.
It'd be my second choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got some issues, though.
Yeah.
Well, Radu walks in on his father, King Vladislav. Yeah, King Vlad, who is drinking blood from the Bloodstone.
And that's Angus Scrimm.
Yeah, in a very bad wig.
His hair is something. Yeah.
Yeah. The tall man from Phantasm, in a long, bushy clown wig almost. The old man doesn't seem too happy to see his freaky-looking son. Radu knows his brother has been summoned from abroad, but doesn't want to see him ascend to the throne. "The Bloodstone is my right as firstborn," he hisses. The king springs a trap, imprisoning Radu. Radu, not to be outdone, pinches off his own fingers, which then morph into tiny little demon things. The little demons open the cage and get Radu out. Radu then stabs the old man, who just sort of stands there watching the whole thing, and then credits roll. Okay, so Angus Scrimm is the old king who has just died. Mm-hmm. I think he gets like 1 or 2 lines later in a flashback, but that's all we see of him.
Yeah.
So much for top billing.
It's a small part.
Yeah. Well, 3 girls arrive in Transylvania on a school break. They stop as a funeral procession marches slowly past, and they continue on to the evil-looking castle where they meet Karl the caretaker. In 1443, Vlad Dracula defended against the Turks in this very castle. The Turks were wiped out, and the locals believed it was vampires who saved the defenders. They go up into a storage area that contains several coffins. All right, now, so anyway, King Vlad, it's Angus Scrimm.
Yeah.
Was he Vlad Dracula? I got the impression that he was, but I don't think they ever explicitly say it.
They don't explicitly say it, but I think that was him, yeah.
He's the original Dracula.
Yes.
All right, thought so. Well, the girls travel around looking at ruins and the village. Night falls, and Radu rises from his coffin and notices the girls. The girls meet Stefan, a zoologist who is staying at the castle as well to study nocturnal animal life in the region. An old woman explains the way the gypsies made a truce with the vampires way back in the day. The bloodstone is said to ooze with the blood of the saints, and since the stone was given to the king of the vampires, no one has been attacked or bitten. The vampires survive from the stone peacefully.
Yeah, and he was doing that, but his son is a megalomaniac who wants to
He likes fresh.
He wants to overuse it, use all its power plus fresh blood.
Eat fresh.
Yeah,
He don't mean Subway.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
The girls take a nap in the countryside and oversleep. They spot Radu in the woods, and they run away and meet up with Stefan, who leads them back to the fortress. We then see Stefan finding the dying old vampire king as Radu attacks him. Stefan is Radu's brother, and he goes to Carl for help. We next see Radu dining on Lillian, one of the girls. Radu then taunts Stefan by withholding the bloodstone from him. The sun is rising, and they're too far from their crypts. Carl shows up and rescues Stefan just in time. Stefan tells Carl to find Radu's resting place, and the very next scene has Carl sharpening pointing stakes and loading shotgun shells full of rosary beads. That's a new one.
It is a new one.
You and your father should have killed him a long time ago, Carl says to Stefan. Stefan wants Carl to get rid of the girls quickly before there is more trouble. The doctor examines Lillian's wounds. She appears to be anemic.
Where's all her blood going?
That night is the big parade and festival the girls came to see. Stefan is there, and we know that he really likes Michelle. From all the kissing, we soon figure out that she likes him as well, although Carl has warned him not to take a mortal as a lover. Radu kidnaps Mara, a local girl, and kills the old woman we saw earlier. Michelle teams up with Stefan and Carl, and they tell her the whole story. He insists that the girls need to leave town in the morning. Unfortunately, Lillian dies of blood poisoning before the morning comes. The villagers cut off the head of the old woman to keep her from becoming a vampire, but Carl, who ought to know better, helps Michelle bury Lillian without the safety measures.
Yeah, and that's just so silly. I mean,
if you know they were killed by a vampire and you know what happened, you're not going to just let it happen.
But Michelle is all like, "Oh, we can't let that happen to my friend, and we can't defile her body like that." And Carl really needed to insist.
Surprising no one, Lillian rises from the grave as Radu watches and waits. Stefan finds Mara in Radu's dungeon, but it's a trap. A net falls on Stefan. Boy, nets sure are hard to get out of in movies, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Lillian makes off with Michelle and puts her in the dungeon next to Mara, so now everyone is in trouble. They get loose and try to find a way out. Of course, Mara is a vampire now too, and all the vampires take Michelle to see Stefan. They plan to turn her right in front of Stefan just for spite. He bites her just as Carl breaks in with his anti-vampire weapons, and Carl then kills Lillian and frees Stefan. Stefan and Radu have a sword fight, and Mara and Michelle do the cat fight thing.
Wow!
Radu and Mara both lose dramatically. Both the baddies get beheaded, but Radu swears that nothing can kill him, so who knows, there could be a sequel or 3.
There could be.
Stefan then takes the bloodstone and kisses Michelle, who now has bloody holes in her neck. She doesn't want to be evil like Radu, so Stefan bites her to make her like he is. As the sun rises, they both lay in a really big coffin built for 2. We then see the little demon things wake up and take Radu's head.
Yep. Sequel.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Why does Stefan look like a good-looking, nice human guy, and Radu looks like Meatloaf out of that video?
He had a human mother. Stefan had a human mother. Radu did not.
Ah, right.
Radu's full vampire and Stefan's a half.
King Vlad looked...
He looked pretty...
He had stupid hair, but I mean, he was human-looking.
Looked pretty human, too. Yeah.
Oh, well. The CGI demons are simply atrocious, even by 91 standards. And Kevin mentioned, are those, was that CGI or was that puppets? I mean, this was the same guy
Stop
who did
motion.
the Puppet Master.
Yeah,
so it's possible.
They reminded me of stop motion, so I'm not sure.
When we initially see them, they're Radu's fingers, and they morph up into these little creatures, and that was clearly CG, really bad CGI.
Obvious CGI.
And I'm not sure if I got past that, and maybe they were dolls later, or puppets, you know.
Like the Puppet Master.
Or were they CGI the whole time?
Yeah.
I am not totally clear on them.
I'm not sure.
But they weren't good.
They were obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, they were okay. They did the job. They were cute. They were kind of cute little guys.
Radu's look and makeup make him an especially creepy-looking vampire, and I was surprised at how clearly the guy could speak, even with those huge fangs in his mouth.
Yeah, those are something.
Usually when you see a vampire in movies with big old teeth, they walk around with their mouth open because they can't close them.
And they talk kind of funny.
And they can't talk because they had their teeth in their mouth, and you can understand the word they say.
And you can tell.
Yeah. But he was really good, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Angus Scrim, as the king, looks very creepy looking, but a bit ridiculous with his frilly wig on. And this was also the very first American film to be shot in Romania. And I've seen quite a few horror films from Romania since. Mm-hmm. This was first.
Yeah.
For a long while, I thought that the bits with Radu and the Vampire King happened long in the past as flashbacks, like in the 1700s or something.
No, that was happening as the girls were arriving.
Yeah, this was all happening right now in the present. The King Vlad died like yesterday. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this was good enough to spawn several sequels, and it is a good, if maybe not completely original, vampire film. The CGI or puppets or whatever they are make the whole thing look a little dated, but otherwise, it does hold up pretty well today.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be my pick of the week.
It's a winner. Yeah.
All right. So that's our films for this week. Stop over at horrorguys.com to read the reviews. Stop over at horrorbulletin.com to sign up for the newsletter. And tune in next week where we're going to talk about something a little different.
What?
Midnight Mass.
A mini-series.
It's a 7-part mini-series. It's something like 7.5 hours worth of stuff.
Carried on Netflix.
Yeah, it's a Netflix show,
mm-hmm.
and I knew what this was going in, but you didn't even know what the creature, the bad thing was.
No.
So let's not spoil it now.
Okay.
But yeah, if you get a chance, watch Midnight Mass on Netflix before next week, and we will talk about that, and we'll probably throw in a short film too, but it's going to be a long episode because there's lots of parts to this. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.